Why is flexibility so important to Total Energies?
So flexibility is important to Total Energies, especially in the Netherlands, since we are operating a very large fleet of EV infrastructure. So we are operating over 10,000 EVs at the moment, and flexibility is important for us for a number of reasons. First of all, if all these EVs were to connect simultaneously, it will generate a huge peak and which would not be able to be accommodated by the current grid infrastructure. In addition to that, we want to optimize the use of renewable energy resources like solar and wind. And we want to steer our EV charging sessions towards those times that we have high numbers of renewable energy resources. Another thing would be making sure that we make use of balancing markets. So the whole system needs to be balanced at all times. EVs are a very important part, and flexibility is a very important part in order to do that. So in that sense, flexibility is essential to our business as a charge point operator, but also as a developer of other renewables.
Okay. What barriers is Total Energies facing in using public charging flexibility?
So the barriers that we are facing right now are mainly twofold. One of the things that we are seeing, since we're predominantly operating in the public domain, is that we do not have access yet to the EV user. So that means that in our steering efforts, we have to be very careful not to be a hurdle or not to stop EV charging sessions that are not meant to be stopped, so people have a lower battery. That means that we want to use that EV user information to more effectively steer those charging sessions and take the EV users' wishes into account. This way we can steer up to 6 times more efficiently. Another thing that we are seeing, and we recently published a paper about this, is that from the municipalities and the concessionaires, in order to protect the EV driver, which is very understandable, they have inserted a minimum load requirement, meaning that EVs have to charge at a certain level at all times. But as a CPO, this is very detrimental to your flexibility because you're no longer able to delay your charge sessions to alleviate grid congestion, optimize renewable energies. So what we have suggested as an alternative to that is to look towards minimum energy. So we want to say you charge an X amount of kilometers within a certain amount of hours, rather than you will always get this amount of power at all times. So to summarize, it is the lack of EV user information. We want to get that. That's the main barrier. And the second one is regulatory. So we want to be able to have regulations in place that allow for flexibility.
Right. Finally, what's the next step in public smart charging?
So the next step in public smart charging, I believe, would be, to summarize in one word, standardization. It cannot be the case that from an EV user perspective, they are able to smart charge at one charge station and not be able to smart charge at another. So this means that technology-wise, your hardware, but also your data streams needs to be compliant and needs to be standardized in order to allow for smart charging and the implementation of flexibility. But also on regulatory framework and for concessionaires. It cannot be the case that here in Amsterdam we're able to smart charge, but as soon as we move to Rotterdam or Utrecht, we won't be able to do this because it's a different project or a different CPO. So we must make sure that our systems are aligned and that our regulations are aligned to allow for smart charging across the board for anywhere that you want. So that's the next step in my opinion.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.